Good morning, church. Will you join me in prayer? Great and merciful God, you are here in this moment. You are eternal yet present. You are beyond time, but fully available to us now. Call to us through music and spoken word. Invite us to bring the fullness of ourselves into this time of worship. We make this request in a desire to more fully know you and your love. Amen. It is so good to see you on this beautiful Sunday morning. Yes? Yes. We hope that those of you who are visiting with us the first time have been made to feel welcome and at home. And those of you who are here each and every week, or sometimes not each and every week, we're just glad you're here. So let's take a moment to move around and greet each other in the spirit of Christian love and acceptance.
down if you want, is when we pray that prayer, when we invite God's Spirit to be here with us, that calls us into a deeper responsibility. Because one of the things, as we'll hear today, that Jesus modeled for his followers is to be aware of the presence around him, be aware of a need around him. And when we become aware, even in the midst of chaos, of a need around us, we are called as followers of Jesus to respond to that need. And that's what this next song is all about. It's called Do Something.
Something entered into a training center for the love first life. We talk a lot about it. We print it. We send it out to you, but we take it seriously. And we believe that what happens here, not only on Sunday morning, but throughout the week, what we're doing is helping to train people in this notion of living the love first life. Recognizing what we see in 1 John, where we are to love one another because God first loved us. That's our starting place, but it's also our model for how we live. I do want to extend a special welcome to any guests or visitors who are with us this morning. I'm glad you've chosen Cypress Creek as the place you want to worship this day. A few things that I want to lift up before I forget. Blue cards. You find them in your worship guides. Fill them out, but let us know how we can pray for you this coming week. It's an important part of the ministry to go on here in Cypress Creek Christian Church. And you'll have an opportunity later in the service to place those in the baskets. Unless you're thinking about joining, and say, keep the whole thing. You give it to me or one of our elders at the close of the service. Tonight, it's taco night. The traditional worship service, their choir is doing a fun night of music and tacos, and you probably already noticed they have some silent auction items out here. All the money is raised goes to their Christmas and their spring concerts. So there's still a few tickets available. Hope you'll come out tonight. But as you're leaving, if you want to jot your name down on one of those silent auctions, I bet you they would let you do that. Looking ahead, we're going to be starting our fall study, The Heart of the Love First Life. This is taking this idea of our vision and mission and saying, so what does it mean for me? How do I live this out? And so starting about 10 days or so on Wednesdays, and then 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have our class on Sunday evenings, be an opportunity to explore that. There are sign-up sheets out here, and that's just to kind of help me know how many people are coming to each one of the classes. So if you can come, I really encourage you to do so. Looking ahead, I just want to lift up these two things. We have work days coming up in the center across the way on September 14th and October 19th. We have been, shall we say, in discussions with FEMA. And we have to get my mic is still not on. We'll see what's wrong with this. I'll just go to this microphone. Fair. We'll go with this one now. We'll hopefully get it turned on. You can hear me without it, I'm pretty sure. Well, we've been waiting for some documents from FEMA. They are required before we can even put out for bids. And the first set of documents we got were wrong. And so we're trying to get them to see that they were wrong to provide. But thank you to Norma and Joel, who did some good hard work, and we feel like we're taking another step in the right direction. So we've got a couple of work days coming up, and I hope that you will plan to participate in just kind of helping prep this space for contractors who hopefully will be coming in soon to give us bids on that space. And then finally, Hannah. Hannah Fitch is sitting right here. I'm going to stand up and wave. Hannah's been on staff for us. In the church office now for a while. But we are expanding her role here at Cypress Creek, calling her as missional pastor. She moved here from Chicago, where she's finishing up her graduate work at seminary there, and will be ordained right after the first of the year as a Disciples of Christ minister. But we're bringing her on, again, as this missional pastor. For a while, we wanted her to kind of go around on Sunday mornings, get to know people. But the fact of the matter is, we don't want her around here. Well, we do. But we want her out in the community. And she's going to be focusing mostly on young adults, but anybody she might encounter. So we are excited to be bringing her on, and you will be seeing her name. You may be seeing her here or there, or you may not, but know that she's out doing work on our behalf, and then inviting us into ways in which we can engage the community in new and wonderful ways. So be praying for Hannah. As I shared in the first service, The hymnals that we use, mostly for traditional worship, her grandfather was the editor of that hymnal. She comes from a strong disciples background, so it's exciting to have her joining us in a new role. Thank you, Hannah. As you came in this morning, you may notice some things folded up here. And there's some at the end of each row, and they're going to pass out those blankets now. And they're going to be passing to each row here. And what I want you to do is, if you get that, hold on to it for a second, and then you can pass it down. But what I want you to do is you hold it. I want you to think about the person who might receive this prayer blanket. These are the prayer blankets that a group here in the Life of the Church creates. They're wonderful expressions of love. But think about the person who might receive it in the hospital. Think about the person in the nursing home. Think about the individual who just went into hospice. Think about the person who just received bad news about a family member or a friend. It is a powerful tool. Now I'm curious, are any of the folks who helped make those here this morning? If you raise your hand. We got a few of them. I know some of them are with the craft crowd that is out there working their booth this morning. Well, I want to take a moment to offer a word of prayer for this new batch of prayer blankets that have been made. So if you'll join me in a word of prayer. You are magnificent, Lord. Magnificent in your capacity to take something so simple, something ordinary, and through the love and kindness of those who offer their gifts, something extraordinary is created, an expression of your merciful kindness. Today we pause to ask for your blessing upon these prayer blankets, yet we must acknowledge that it was your blessing that first enticed the creativity that started this ministry. It is your holy blessing that called forth those who were willing to provide material and skills and time and encouragement in the making of these special blankets. So blessings already abound, and we simply acknowledge how your blessings have been woven into every inch of these blankets. And wherever they may find a home, you, O God, will make a way for these blessings to envelop the people who find themselves encircled by the gift of a blanket. May they be a part of the larger ministry of care that happens here at this church. We ask this now in the name of Christ Jesus. Amen. Again, thank you. They really are a wonderful tool of ministry. And after the first service, I heard stories out around holy grounds of people who were on the receiving end of one of those in past years. Well, today we are looking at Luke's Gospel, the 8th chapter, a wonderful story. And I invite you to open up your hearts and your minds to these words. When Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they had been waiting for him. A man named Jairus, who was a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet. He pleaded with Jesus to come to his house because his only daughter, a 12-year-old, was dying. As Jesus moved forward, he faced a smothering crowd. A woman was there who had been bleeding for 12 years. She had spent her entire livelihood on doctors, but no one could heal her. She came up behind Jesus and touched the hem of his clothes, and at once her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When everyone denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds are surrounding you and pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." When the woman saw that she couldn't escape notice, she came trembling before Jesus. In front of everyone, she explained why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. "Daughter, your faith has healed you," Jesus said. "Go in peace." Go in peace. May those words speak to us. May those words stay with us. Would you join me in prayer? For all of us who seek healing in some aspect of life, we turn to you, Lord. We turn to you and reach out for you, for in you we find love, we find mercy, we find hope. Now provide for us an awareness of what you are already doing in this time, in this service. In the name of Christ. Have you ever watched one of those wildlife shows? You know, where the camera kind of pans the field of grass, and suddenly the wildlife expert, his voice comes on. He sounds like he just finished a stint doing play-by-play for the British Open Golf Tournament. Kind of in a hushed tone, he says, "Notice closely. Notice the alpha male as he asserts himself by beating his chest. Oh, look over here. You will see a magnificent creature parading around with tail feathers put on display. Oh, do you see her? She is walking around but intimidating the smaller ones. Do you see it?" Sorry, my British accent's really bad. But you know, you watch these on Animal Planet or National Geographic or PBS. But have you ever witnessed the same behaviors in the workplace, at a party, at a family reunion, at a sports bar? Oh, sure, there may not literally be feathers put on display, and technically no one's beating his or her chest, but power is being put on display with the purpose of intimidating, dominating, showing off, putting somebody in his or her place. I have no intent of making light of this, because it plays itself out in some pretty unhealthy, destructive, even dangerous and deadly ways. Even our precious disciples were not immune from this, though. These folks who heard Jesus speak firsthand about humility and gentleness, those that witnessed firsthand his acts of compassion and mercy, they seemed unaware of the implications of what was being suggested, not seeing how it connected to their lives. Maybe it started when Jesus first took 3 of the disciples up to the mountain of Transfiguration. I can just imagine, though, the conversation that happened down below. Because if he only took 3 of the disciples, there were 9 of them left behind. You just imagine one of them going, why didn't he take me? I mean, I know why he didn't take you, but why didn't he take me? I should be a part of the inner circle. And then get acting out, chest bumping, trying to kind of get into that. You know what I'm talking about. They're getting into this discussion over who is the greatest among them. 2 of them even send their mother later to Jesus to try to get special treatment, a special place. Later, they feel threatened. They feel threatened when a stranger starts casting out demons. And they go to Jesus and say, "Stop him, he's not one of us." And Jesus basically says, "Get over it." It kind of reminds me of the time I was asked to be a sponsor, one of the sponsors at a junior high dance. There was not much dancing happening on the dance floor, but there was dancing, or a form of dancing, so we call it the dance of power, that was happening on the other side of the gym, around the snack tables, near the hallway that led to the bathrooms, in the bleachers. Lots of primping and parading, posing and self-promoting. Some people would say, oh, they're just full of themselves, but I think, in fact, it's just the opposite. There's a void there. And yet among those that are acting out in kind of pompous and haughty ways, there was another group. You might have missed it if you weren't paying attention, because this group, that group that was acting all arrogant, that's where your eyes went, but there was this other group that didn't feel as if they had any power. They felt they were below, underneath that other group. And the woman that approached Jesus, she knew that place very well. Remember, Jesus was on his way somewhere else, somewhere important. A very important person in the community had asked for his help. We know that important person by name. His name was Jairus, and Jesus is on his way. And the woman sees this, and she doesn't feel like she can interrupt it. She is not an important person. In fact, she's not even named in the story. And on top of everything, she's been sick, seriously ill, which is just another strike against her. In that time, in that place, that was seen as, well, that you were in disfavor with God. It had to have been physically exhausting, emotionally devastating. And she was living in a place where she had no status, no authority, no nothing. And so it's surprising that she finds even just a glimmer of hope. It's not rational, it's not prudent, but maybe this Jesus will offer me something, and yet she convinces herself that she cannot actually approach him. But maybe she can steal just a little anointing as he goes by. Maybe I can brush up against it. For any interruption, any intrusion into that world is not possible for someone like her. There was a perceived sphere of power, and she was not invited in. Over the years, I have met many people who on the surface appear to have their lives together. They appear from a distance to be pretty put together. But when you get close, when you get to know them, you realize that they're not a whole lot different than this woman, convincing themselves that they do not belong, that they are not worthy, that they do not have the right standing. They've gotten there in part because that's what they have been told over and over again. And so she, this woman who I think represents so many others, remains hidden in the crowd and just kind of reaches through. You can just imagine this kind of hand appearing, and she reaches out and touches the hem, that part of Jesus' robe that literally is dragging in the dirt. Is that because that's the only place she believes she deserves to touch? The story, though, stops on a dime here. When Jesus says, "Who touched me?" Everyone denied it. Even Peter points out, Jesus, everybody's basically touching you. The crowd is pushing in on you. But Jesus says, no. Somebody touched me. I know that power has gone out from me, he says. Power has gone out. Is Jesus sharing power? Is he a reservoir for power? Is Jesus the Oprah of power brokers? You get power, and you get power, and you get power. Is Jesus trying to give power to one who had no power, inviting her into the sphere where power is the commodity? Is he providing for her currency so that she can have access to this game? Or is he doing something else? Is Jesus sick and tired of the old destructive system? and wants to offer an alternative. A lot of Bible translations, including the one that I read from this morning, have Jesus saying, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." You read the word power and you get a certain image in your mind, do you not? You think you know what it means. But it's interesting, the King James Version translates the original Greek not as power, but as virtue. Virtue? Power? In the opening chapter of Luke's Gospel, in the story leading up to the birth of Jesus, Mary has this encounter with a divine messenger. And she hears that she's going to be pregnant, but not in a traditional way, and she seems confused and uncertain, and asks, "How can this be?" To which the divine messenger eventually says to her, "Nothing is impossible for God." That word impossible, or at least we translate it as impossible here, the original Greek is the same word that we translate as power, just with the prefix not attached to it. So it's translated as power, as virtue, but also as possibility. That which moved from Jesus was not, at least as I see it, not power as we usually think about it, not as the world tries to sell it. What was happening was something that began to unleash, uncap, unchain all the possibility and promise that was within this woman and yet was dormant, had been pushed down, had been held down. Jesus turns to her, he looks at her, he sees her, and he calls her daughter. This one whose presence could so easily be ignored because she had no value, no worth, no power, at least as things were measured in that world. And yet Jesus did not want to play that game. He did not want to go by those rules. He did not want to get sucked into that power play. So what does he do? He acknowledges her presence, her God-given value, her intrinsic worth. And in doing so, it begins to untether, unleash this possibility that was within this woman. It begins to untangle it and set it free. As I see these prayer blankets, as I saw them getting passed around, this is actually the second congregation I've served that has had prayer blankets as a ministry. Now, this congregation does them better. Don't tell my previous congregation that, but you really do. But the reactions I've gotten over the years have been fascinating. Sometimes I walked in with a prayer blanket, and I just get a thank you. Oh, this is wonderful, this is beautiful. Had somebody between services say I carried it around like Linus. But I've also had some different responses. On 2 occasions, I've had people ask me, "How much does it cost?" One person even saying to her husband, "Charlie, get out the checkbook." As if I would say, "Well, today we have a special. $29.95. You can get 2 of them?" No. I had someone say to me, "But I'm a shut-in and I can't go to church anymore." As if I was dangling it like a carrot. "Oh, I'll give it to you if you come back to church." But I think the one that bothered me the most was a woman who said, "Oh, it's so beautiful, but I'm behind in my pledge." As if I would say to her, "Oh, I should have checked that before coming. I'll hold on to it until you catch up." Do you hear what is being suggested by these people? Folks who reside in a world where their value is measured by all the wrong stuff. As if the prayer blanket is a part of a power economy, and they don't have the needed power, the status, the influence to be able to receive it. The prayer blanket was a gift. I didn't do anything to make it. Others did. I was just the delivery person. But especially when somebody's feeling sick, feeling vulnerable, afraid, and hurting, they easily get sucked into that world where they are questioning their value, their benefit, their merit. And they begin to think to themselves, "I do not deserve it." That language is birthed out of a world where power determines your usefulness, your virtue. But it's a gift. Well, I didn't earn it. Well, if you earned it, it wouldn't be a gift. It'd be a paycheck. It's a gift with no strings attached. A gift. I got the call about Patricia one afternoon. She was in the hospital. I got in the car. I drove to the hospital. She was still in the ER. They'd done x-rays and an additional scan, a broken hip. They were waiting for more detailed results. We used my phone, got her son on the call. He lived on the East Coast, actually worked in Washington, D.C., worked for a person in Congress. He said to keep him updated. After we hung up, the doctor came in and he said something strange at first. He said, I don't think you fell and broke your hip. I think your hip broke and you fell. And then he went on to explain, it appears by the scan that there's cancer. And that is what weakened the bone. We got our son back on the phone. He said he'd get the first flight out the next morning. The next morning, I was actually in the hospital room when he arrived. He'd stopped by the gift shop, had a little plant with a balloon on it. He set it on the table, gave his mom a kiss, pulled up a chair, sat down next to her, and held her hand. They were 2 minutes into the conversation when she said to him, can you come back tomorrow? No, Mom. And you just see, when he said no, her face changed. And he said, well, I don't mean no. I'll be here tomorrow. Yes, I'm here now, Mom. And she said, but you got important things to do. You should go back to my house, and you should just focus on your work. And then just almost beaming, she looks at me and says, he does such important work, and people depend on him. And she said, but Mom, I'm here now. I don't want to talk about being present tomorrow. I want to be here now. And yet she was still trying to insert herself into a world where power and money and politics define everything. Yet her son remained persistent in trying to say, but Mom, no, I'm here now. And eventually something clicked for her. I think she suddenly realized that she was truly recognized. Her presence was seen as he was fully present to her. Not simply because she eventually measured up to some erroneous scale that carries absolutely no weight in anything that matters. No, he saw her and was fully present to her. You want to know what business we are in here at Cypress Creek? We're in that kind of business. We are in the business of living the love-first life, of loving people, not because they measure up, not because they pledge enough, not because they have the right power or status. It's because they are, as we all are, precious beyond measure. God seems to make it clear. Jesus doubles down on the idea. And if we worship God and follow Jesus, then I think we have a clear understanding of what we should be doing. And yet we get so easily sucked into that world that says you are valued based upon this, that, and the other thing. And before long, you feel like you're down here. And yet you notice that there are others who are even further down than you. And Jesus shows up and refuses to play that game and offers an alternative image, an alternative reality that makes it very clear that though the world says one thing, God says something else. That you and I are precious beyond measure. We are a part of God's beloved community. And nothing the world says, and they say it loud sometimes, nothing the world says carries any weight compared to what God says. Join me in prayer. For the ministries of love and compassion shared among us,
and through us as a congregation, and I give you thanks, O gracious one who inspired such ministries. Yet too often we find ourselves stuck in a world that perceives value on some continuum. A human life is assigned to a place on a scale, using some of the most arbitrary traits and qualities: age, color of skin, nation of origin, wealth or lack thereof, job status, job title. How do we, who follow your gift, Jesus, become so easily drawn into that system, that destructive and broken system, where the human family is being torn apart, one part of the family put up against another? Holy and gracious God, you call us, you demand of us to live in a different way, to be a part of a different world, one that you have already created in the life and teachings and the death and resurrection of Jesus. Allow for us to be a part of that work. Allow for the gifts that you have instilled within us to be connected to that new reality, that holy realm where power is not the currency but love. Your relentless and reckless love is what welcomes and empowers and transforms. This day, O God, we ask for your help, because the work is not easy. It is tough. But with Jesus as our model and the Spirit as our source of encouragement, nothing is impossible. We ask this now in the name of Jesus. Amen. arrest and crucifixion. We do it in part because we feel like he has said to us, do this in remembrance of me. Do it as often as you come together. You know, it's one thing for us to be ready to go out into the world, to take this message, to make sure others understand that there isn't some sort of scale in God's eye. There's just love. But I think we need to pause ourselves and be reminded, because often as you go out of this place and into the world, you are quickly beaten up and made to feel like because this or that or the other thing, oh, you don't measure up. And it's good to come to the table, look at all the stuff, I'll just name it in my own life, all the baggage that I have, mistakes I made this week, and still to find grace and love and welcome. It prepares us for being able to take that message into the world. So my hope and prayer for each of us today is that we feel the welcome of God here at this table. That we feel like we can come. Because there isn't anything that stands in the way. It is God's grace that invites. In just a moment, that invitation will be extended from the table. And those of you seated in the main section will be invited to come forward. Take a piece of bread, dip it in the cup, and take the elements. You're seated on the back row, the elements and the offering baskets will be brought to you, and there will be stations in the balcony. If you need gluten-free, you'll find that here. This table is open. There is an invitation offered in love, and grace abounds. So let us now prepare for time at the table.
Jesus sits at the table, breaking the bread with his friends, teaching what he is able, for his pride on earth ends. Do this in remembrance of me. Do this in remembrance of me. Take and take of me. Now I will serve, do this. Do this in remembrance of
So, will you be fully present in the presence, the full presence of our God at this table this morning? Or will you eat a piece of bread and drink of this cup as part of your routine Sunday morning, performed Sunday after Sunday, week after week, year after year? Please, say yes to being fully present. Because you matter. Let's pray.
You show up. And of all things, bread and a cup, you show up right in the middle of this moment. It is just a reminder of how you show up and invite all of us to become agents by which your grace makes an appearance in the lives of others. Let us be fully present to others as we recognize how they are fully present and alive in the moment. There's work to be done, and we know that you will help us through the breaking of the bread and the sharing of the cup. Now, O Lord, we ask you to lead us into a common prayer, the one that Jesus taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
On the night in which Jesus was betrayed, he and his disciples gathered in an upper room, prepared especially for them to celebrate the Passover feast. And while they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after a blessing, he broke it. And he gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat. This is my body broken for you. And then he took a cup, and he gave thanks, and he gave it to the disciples and said, Drink from this, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is to be shed on behalf of many, for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in remembrance of me. People of God, the table has been prepared, it has been set, all has been made ready, and all are welcome. Come, let us dine together.
You're my healer.
pressed down, knocked down a notch. You know those experiences. But when it comes from somebody that you respect, somebody that you appreciate, when they knock you down, push you down, you believe it. You own it. You allow yourself to be measured by that person. That's when we need to reconnect with these kinds of stories. We need to remind ourselves about who our God is and how God has acted. We need to make sure that we, not only for ourselves but for others, embody what it means to say, you and I are beloved children of God, period. There isn't an asterisk going down to the bottom and you get to see all the other stuff. No. Plain and simple. That's what I think it means to come together, because we need to encourage one another in that work. We need to remind ourselves. We need to become that training center for the love first. And today I want to extend an invitation to anyone who would like to connect their lives with this community of faith. Extend an invitation to someone who would like to give their lives to Jesus Christ and find what is needed to begin to do that work. You can do so by either coming forward as we were singing, or you can be with one of our elders or pastors outside right after the service. Let us now join our voices in our song of discipleship.
Open my eyes, let me see.
You are lovely. You are worthy. May those be the words that take us into the world so that maybe, just maybe, we can help somebody who feels pretty beaten down by the world around them understand that though the world will speak loudly, the world does not have a final word on things. God does. And that every one of us is a beloved child of God. I want to quickly lift up Bill Kaufman, wonderful part of this church. Bill's memorial service tomorrow here at 10 a.m. Continue to keep Angela's daughter, that extended family, in your prayers. I now invite you to take the hand of somebody close. And let us join together in our common prayer. Gracious God,